hell is wrong with you? How can you do this to me?" That was me, screaming. My throat raw, my hands shaking so hard I could barely keep them from curling into fists. My voice bounced off the white-painted walls of the sorority, house hallway like broken glass. I had never screamed like that in my life. Not at my parents. Not at an ex-boyfriend. Not even during the worst fights of my teenage years. But at that moment, standing barefoot on cold wooden floors, my body exposed, my dignity torn apart, I felt something snap inside me. I wanted to cry. God, my eyes burned with tears I was too stubborn to let fall. My chest was tight. My jaw trembled. My stomach churned like I had swallowed fire and glass at the same time. I was humiliated, completely stripped, physically and emotionally. But before I take you to that night, I need to tell you how I even ended up in that sorority. Because if you just heard the ending without knowing the beginning, you'd never understand why what happened to me cut so deep. I grew up in a quiet, middle-class neighborhood in Ohio. Nothing fancy. My parents worked hard. My mom a nurse. My dad a mechanic. We weren't poor, but every dollar had to stretch. My clothes weren't name brand. My shoes were usually secondhand. But my parents loved me with everything they had. And they drilled one thing into me, over and over. Education is your ticket. Work hard, and you'll go further than us. So I did. I worked my ass off. Honor roll every semester. Late nights spent over textbooks when my friends were out partying. By senior year, I was class valedictorian with a scholarship to a prestigious university 2 states away. That's where everything changed. When I stepped onto campus, I felt small. Everyone seemed shinier, richer, smarter. Girls strutted in designer clothes like they were born walking runways. Guys drove expensive cars. Even their backpacks cost more than my entire wardrobe. I was the scholarship girl. The outsider. The charity case. So when I got a bid from one of the most popular sororities on campus, I thought my prayers had been answered. It felt like validation. Like I could finally belong. At first, it was intoxicating. The sisterhood chants, the coordinated outfits, the smiles and Instagram photos. They made me feel chosen, special. But looking back, there were cracks I ignored. The subtle comments about my clothes, the way they rolled their eyes when I mentioned working a part-time job at the library, how they snickered at my off-brand makeup. I laughed along, desperate not to seem too sensitive. I told myself it was just sorority humor, that I was being paranoid. But then came them. The night. Everything shattered. Her name was Brianna, the president of the sorority. Perfect blonde hair, tan skin that always glowed like she lived on a yacht, designer jeans that looked like they cost more than my rent. She was the kind of girl who could smile at you while stabbing you in the back, and you'd still thank her. Brianna was the queen bee, and I, naive, hopeful, stupid, wanted her approval more than anything. Then there was Tessa, her right hand. Girl. Dark hair, razor-sharp tongue, and a laugh that could slice through you like a blade. If Brianna was sugar-coated poison, Tessa was pure acid. They never attacked me outright, at first. Instead, it was little things. Oops, did you mean to wear that? Wow, must be nice not to worry about calories. Hey, maybe don't talk about your parents' jobs. It's kinda depressing. I smiled. I swallowed it, because I wanted to belong. But the night of the party, the night they crossed a line I could never forgive, everything changed. It was supposed to be just another Friday. A mixer with one of the fraternities. Loud music. Red solo cups. Glittery dresses. I borrowed a sparkly top from another sister because my own clothes weren't party enough. I was getting ready in my room, hair curled, makeup carefully. Done. I felt pretty, confident even. That's when Brianna and Tessa burst in. Hey, you coming? We're pre-gaming downstairs, Brianna said, her smile too wide. Yeah, just finishing up, I replied. They exchanged a look I didn't catch at the time. Cool. Don't take too long, Tessa added with a smirk. I should have known. I should have known. 10 minutes later, I headed toward the stairs, only to realize something was off. My door, my room, my stuff. Gone. I froze. My closet had been stripped. My clothes, gone. Even the borrowed top I had set on my bed, gone. I rushed into the hall. The sound of stifled giggles echoed. My skin prickled. That's when I realized. My towel. That's all I was wearing. A towel, barely clinging to me. My pulse raced. My face burned. I grabbed the knob to run back inside, but it wouldn't budge. Locked. I pounded on the door. What? The hell? Open this! Laughter exploded from behind me. I spun around. There they were. Brianna, Tessa, and half a dozen others, phones out, recording. Smile for the camera, scholarship girl, Brianna sang, her voice dripping with mockery. I felt the towel slipping. I clutched it tighter, my knuckles white. My legs shook. Click. Flash. Record. The sound of their laughter filled the hallway, bouncing off the walls, drilling into my skull. Say hi to YouTube, Tessa cackled. Tears blurred my vision. My throat closed. I begged. Please, stop, please. But they didn't. They shoved, they jeered. They filmed me running barefoot down the hall, trying desperately to hide my body. I thought I would die from shame. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that while they laughed and filmed, a hidden camera in the common room had been rolling the entire time, and it caught everything. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed, clutching my blanket around me like armor, my whole body trembling. My mind replayed the laughter, the flashing cameras, the cruel smirks. I felt dirty, humiliated, exposed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brianna's smirk. I heard Tessa's cackle. I saw my reflection in their phones. Weak, broken, pathetic. At one point, I thought about packing my bags and leaving the sorority. Hell, leaving school altogether. Just running away and pretending. None of this ever happened. But then, the rage came. It started as a spark, faint but undeniable, somewhere deep in my chest. By morning, it was a fire, and by the end of the week, it was an inferno. I went through the motions for days, classes, meals, fake smiles. But underneath, I was plotting, because I remembered something they didn't know. The sorority had recently installed new security cameras in the common areas after a string of thefts. They weren't hidden exactly, but no one paid attention to them. And one of those cameras had a perfect view of the hallway where they humiliated me. I checked. I double-checked. And yes, it caught everything. Every shove, every scream, every second of me begging them to stop while they laughed. That footage was my weapon, but I knew better than to rush. If I lashed out too soon, they'd twist it. They'd cry jealousy. They'd paint me as the bitter outsider trying to ruin their fun. So I stayed quiet. I kept my head down. I let them think I was broken. Meanwhile, I gathered ammo. One night, while the girls were out partying, I slipped into Brianna's room. I knew her password. She bragged about using her birthday for everything. Pathetic. Her laptop was full of gold. Screenshots of her bullying other girls. Messages where she admitted to hazing violations. Photos of underage drinking. Tessa's room was no different. I found a stash of pills. Illegal. Prescription only. The more I dug, the darker it got. They weren't just mean girls. They were reckless, cruel, dangerous. And every piece of dirt I collected was another brick in the wall I was building around them. Still, I wasn't ready. Not yet. Because part of me wanted them to know. I wanted to see the fear in their eyes. I wanted to feel their smug little world collapse piece by piece. So I baited them. I started dressing nicer, walking with my head high, smiling when they expected me to cower. It drove them crazy. I could see it. Wow, guess someone thinks she's hot now, Tessa sneered one morning at breakfast. I just sipped my coffee and smiled. Brianna narrowed her eyes. Careful, sweetheart. Don't forget who runs this house. Inside, I was shaking, with laughter. Because what they didn't know was that I already had the leash around their necks. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. They had another party planned, bigger than ever. Alumni were coming, campus influencers, even a couple of donors. This was their moment to shine. Their stage, and it was about to become their funeral. Because I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to make sure everyone who mattered saw it. The night of the party, I pretended to play along. I helped decorate. I carried trays. I wore the fake smile I'd perfected. But upstairs on my laptop, a file was waiting. The footage, the screenshots, the messages, all neatly compiled into a video that told the whole story. How they locked me out, how they laughed, how they abused their power. And at midnight, while the music downstairs pounded and the house overflowed with laughter, that video began uploading, not just to YouTube, to the university dean, to the national sorority headquarters, to every single alumni email I could find. I didn't hit send yet. Not yet. Because I wanted to see their faces first. I wanted them to feel it. So I went downstairs. The music was deafening. Lights flashed. Brianna was at the center of the room, glittering like she owned the universe. Tessa danced at her side, her laugh cutting through the air. I stood in the doorway, calm, almost serene. And when Brianna noticed me, she smirked. "Look who decided to show up. You're not wearing a towel this time, are you?" The crowd laughed, my fists clenched, but I smiled. "No towel," I said. "But you might want one. You're about to sweat." She frowned, confused, and then I pulled out my phone. On the screen, the video was already processing. The thumbnail was unmistakable, her face smirking, while I stood humiliated behind her. Her eyes widened. Tessa stopped mid-laugh. "What the hell is that?" Brianna demanded, her voice sharp. I stepped closer, my voice low, calm, deadly. "Your future. Or maybe your funeral." Brianna's smile cracked. For the first time since I'd known her, she didn't look untouchable. She looked scared. "What are you doing?" She hissed, stepping closer, her perfume sharp and suffocating. I tilted my phone so she could see the timeline bar crawling across the screen. "It's uploading," I whispered. Every second, every laugh, every word. Her face drained of color. Tessa lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, slipping it into my pocket. "Don't even try," I warned, my voice shaking but steady enough to cut through the music. "The files are backed up. You can't stop it." The crowd around us sensed something was wrong. Conversations quieted. People turned, phones lowered. Suddenly, Brianna and Tessa's kingdom of flashing lights and fake laughter didn't feel so safe. She tried to recover. Of course she did. Brianna tossed her hair and forced a laugh. "Oh my God, she's insane. This little charity case thinks she's some kind of hacker. Don't listen to her." But her voice cracked. And that was all I needed, because I had waited for this exact moment. I pulled out a tiny remote from my pocket. One click, and the projector on the far wall flickered to life. At first, it was just static. Then, the video. And there I was, standing in the hallway, half naked, clutching a towel, terrified. Then came the laughter. Their voices, their faces. Crystal clear. Gasps erupted through the room. Conversations stopped cold. Brianna's smirk vanished. Tessa's jaw dropped, and as the video played on, the room turned against them. "You filmed her!" someone shouted. "That's harassment!" another voice yelled. "Holy shit, that's illegal!" Phones came out. Not to film me this time, but to record them. Brianna's perfect little world cracked open in real time. She rushed to the projector, fumbling with the wires. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" Too late. Because while she panicked, my phone buzzed in my pocket. The upload was complete. The email had been sent. The evidence was everywhere now. She couldn't bury it. She couldn't silence it. Her empire had just burned to the ground. Tessa tried to save face. "This is just a prank gone wrong. Everyone's overreacting." But the alumni didn't buy it. The donors looked horrified. The fraternity guys shook their heads in disgust. One of the campus influencers, huge following, always glued to his phone, was already live streaming. His camera pointed right at Brianna's tear-streaked face. "Hey guys," he said to thousands of viewers. "Turns out the sorority queens aren't so royal after all." Brianna froze. She knew it was over. The fallout was swift. By Monday, the dean had called an emergency meeting. The video had gone viral. Over 1 million views in 48 hours. Alumni pulled their donations. National headquarters announced an investigation. Brianna was stripped of her presidency. Tessa was suspended. The sorority house was placed on probation. And me? For the first time, I wasn't invisible. People stopped me on campus to say they admired me. Professors pulled me aside, telling me how proud they were. Even strangers messaged me online. You stood up for yourself. You stood up for every girl who's ever been humiliated. It didn't erase what they did to me. I still had nightmares. I still woke up some nights hearing their laughter in my head. But justice felt good. Watching their empire crumble brick by brick, knowing I did that, was the sweetest revenge I could ever imagine. Brianna tried to corner me one last time. It was outside the dining hall. She looked wrecked, mascara smudged, hair unwashed, the shine gone from her once perfect aura. "You ruined my life," she spat, her voice low and venomous. I looked her dead in the eyes. "No, Brianna," I said softly. "You ruined your own." And I walked away. For the first time in months, my hands weren't trembling. Life went on. Classes, work, exams. The sorority limped along without its queen bees, but it would never recover its glittery reputation. As for me, I stopped craving their approval. I realized I didn't need to belong to people who thrived on cruelty. I built my own circle, friends who saw me, respected me, valued me, and most importantly, I learned that humiliation doesn't define you, but how you rise from it does. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't just exposing your enemies, it's reclaiming yourself. And now, every time I walk past that hallway, the one where I once stood, shaking in a towel, I don't hear their laughter anymore. I hear silence, and in that silence, I hear power. My power. So tell me, what would you have done in my place? Would you have forgiven them, or burned everything down the way I did?